There's no substitute for experience, the knowledge gained from having been there before, and the passion to share what you know to make everyone around you better. It's true in basketball. It's true in banking. Grizzlies Checking from Pinnacle. Play hard. Bank easy. Open a Grizzlies checking account with at least $100 and a recurring direct deposit by August 31st, and you could receive a $200 direct deposit bonus into your account. Details at grizzliesbanking.com. Member FDIC.
I've cuddled a time or two in my life.
We are the right.
I've cuddled too.
I've cuddled a
We're
time
the
or
right
two in my
heights.
life.
We're the right just
Yeah,
size
and
in
I think
general.
sometimes you're cuddling and you're like, man, I don't know if this fits the right way.
Or I was with someone who had like a baseball injury once, and so like his arm couldn't handle, like he physically couldn't.
He had to say, I would love to cuddle you, but I tore my rotator
I
cuff.
physically cannot.
What a wild deal.
The Gary Parrish Show, live weekdays at 10 a.m. on YouTube at Grind City Media and the official Grind City Media app.
It's more fun to be there live to see the Memphis Grizzlies hit the court all season long. From the electricity and FedEx Forum to the highlight reel plays, there's nothing quite like Grizzlies basketball. As the official marketplace of the Memphis Grizzlies, Ticketmaster gets you in with a huge selection of seats. So get off the couch and into the stands while you still can. Score tickets today at Ticketmaster.com. That's Ticketmaster.com.
There's no substitute for experience, the knowledge gained from having been there before, and the passion to share what you know to make everyone around you better. It's true in basketball. It's true in banking. Grizzlies Checking from Pinnacle. Play hard. Bank easy. Open a Grizzlies checking account with at least $100 and a recurring direct deposit by August 31st, and you could receive a $200 direct deposit bonus into your account. Details at grizzliesbanking.com. Member FDIC.
It's time for Grizz Beat, a full court press of highlights, insights, news, and scoops covering the Grizzlies and the NBA. Catch up each week on the latest Grizz buzz with regional and national insiders locked in on our squad. Running point from Grind City Media Studios, our host, Jarvis Greer.
Hey everybody, welcome to another edition of Grizz Beat. We got a great show for you. As always, let's introduce our great studio panel, very illustrious. We have sitting to my left, the one and only Chris Harrington of the Daily Memphian. And Chris, I know you're getting ready to make the big move to Minneapolis, but you're going to be here with us for a while, at least through the draft and everything, and giving your perspective on what the Grizzlies do and how they try to shepherd their way from a tough season into what we hope will be a championship one.
You always butter me up too much, Jarvis. I can never say no to Jarvo, so I'll be in the seat whenever you ask me to, pretty much.
Well, I know this. This is the only city in the world where we have two barbecue contests going on at the same time. You've been at both of them, so you are now a connoisseur of barbecue as well as an aficionado of basketball. You can speak on everything.
All the good Memphis stuff. Add some music in there too. Got the Stax
hat
trick.
Yeah, I'm gonna get that hat from you before you leave. And also joining us, as always, we have the guru of Grind City Media himself, the great Michael Wallace, as my grandson likes to say. Memphis Grizzlies basketball now and forever. And Michael Wallace, you were in the room when the ping pong balls actually dropped, a very, very covetous spot. And what is the tension like in there when all that is going on for the NBA draft?
It is a lot of tension in there, especially as those 30 seconds are going, 20 seconds before they start calling the combinations. But it gets very anticlimactic after that, right? Because unlike the unveiling, which is in descending order, the first drawing of the ping pongs is the first pick.
Oh,
so
wow.
then you find, okay, so it's pick number 1, Atlanta Hawks. Then 30 seconds later, pick number 2, Washington Wizards. And by that point, you're like, uh-oh, this draft is turned upside down. But, I want to give kudos again, man. Thanks again, brother, for coming in.
Yeah.
Chris Harrington has been a friend of our show since we got started. And, as he gets ready to transition, man, he's a treasure, for real. Like, he's a true treasure because he has his hands and his insight and his taste and his nose, his ears. All of those things have been all about Grind City and Memphis, man. And you're a treasure, man. We're going to miss you, but hopefully you won't be a stranger too long.
I'm going to be around a lot, man. You guys can't get rid of me that easy.
All right,
see, we're trying to give him all the kudos and usher him out the door. No, that's not it. We want you to stay if we could. There's no trade here.
I've tried so many different Memphis area.
It's like being
places.
at your own funeral coming in here.
Give your flower, like you want to get your flowers while you're here.
Yeah, smell them good, man.
But real quick, I've tried so many different places in Memphis, whether it's bookshops, coffee shops,
right,
barbecue shop, literally. after hearing him on Jeff Calkins' show talk about some of these places. I'm like, all right, if he said it, I'm gonna go check it out.
That's my heart right there, barbecue shop.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
I know. So that's how I knew I needed to go, man.
Well, let's get to the heart of the show here. Now, we're talking about the Grizzlies have the 9th pick, as everyone knows. And there's been a lot of discussion. What is Memphis going to do with the pick in a draft where nobody really knows what's going to happen with any of these players? Because anybody could break out. You could have a Kevin Durant in this draft. You could have, Anunoby. You could have anybody in this draft. Who knows? Grizz have the 9th overall pick. Then in the second round, they have 2 picks at number 39, which the Grizzlies have done really well at that, picking around that spot here over the last few years. And then number 56, which is 4 from the bottom. This is the first time in franchise history the Grizz have had the 9th pick. And Chris, we'll start with you. What is it that you think that Memphis should do with this pick, number 9?
I mean, Zach Kleiman tends to be opportunistic, and I think it's more important than ever not to lock into using the pick, not to lock into trading it, not to lock in a certain position. Or I think you got to keep all your options open. They're in a good spot because they should have a good team even without this pick next season. And so, do whatever, look at all the options available to you and do whatever is going to help raise the ceiling on that team you have. I don't think they should be committed to any one path.
Yeah, Michael Wallace, a lot of people said, when it came out, trade to number 9 hit for everybody in the public. You were in there. You knew an hour before anybody else. But when that came out, a lot of people were saying, trade it. Just trade the pick. And let's see if maybe we can package that pick with somebody already on the team and go get a big man. Did you get that? Have you gotten that sense from anybody, or everybody's so close to the vest, nobody wants to say anything?
Oh, no question. This is a team that's, front office that's very close to the vest, right? But one of the things that Zach Kleiman has said from the beginning is that no matter where it lands, if they jump up, he's going to take the best player available or trade the pick. If they fall down, they're going to take the best player available or trade the pick. I think, those things aren't mutually exclusive. I think they're going to take the best player available and still probably trade the pick. My anticipation, and this is not speaking to the Grizzlies, this is just me being in a room, being around 30 team executives from all teams up in Chicago. The sense I get is that this is going to be one of the more draft-heavy trade nights. Yeah. So it's going to be a lot of guys getting hats from one team, and then 20 minutes later, they're going to have to shift hats and retake photos because with the variance so wide open in terms of where these guys can go, basically from 3 all the way to 14, who you want at 9 could possibly be available, right there, right? You might value him at 4, but he could be available at 9 depending on what the rest of the teams on the board look like. And when you look at this draft board, it shows you teams have different needs, and these players are all just kind of all over the place.
It's like, okay, I'll just throw a name out there that everybody throws out there, Donovan Clingan. Everybody in Memphis seems to love Donovan Clingan from UConn, national champion Huskies. He's a big man who can do a lot of the things that Grizzlies fans want their big man to do, a la Steven Adams. Not as big as Steven Adams, but, he's a big guy, can rebound, he can set screens, he can do that kind of thing. And, he's got some rim run capability. If he's available at that pick, would they keep him but then still look for a trade to try to get a big man somewhere else?
That's a good question, man. Like, I don't know what they're going to do. I know what I would do if that's a need, and if Clingan is available at 9, it seems like, okay, you got him. Will he be available at 9? That's the key right there. So, it's one of those questions, man. One of the things that I thought about in the actual sequestered room as the board was taking shape, and we'll look at, the top 9, those top 14 picks here in a second. I was like, okay, everyone feels pretty confident Sarr is going 1, right? The other kid, I can't pronounce his name. Risa Shea is theoretically 2. And then who else is going to need a big? From 3 all the way down till you get to Memphis. Right. And you got to wonder how that's going to shape up, but, we'll see. We'll see.
A lot of people talk draft for need or draft for talent. Always go with talent is basically the thing. But, Chris, you look at it, saying, okay, Memphis trades a pick. If they want a big man, they're going to have to add something with it. And a lot of people are saying Marcus Smart might be one because the Grizzlies have a kind of redundancy at that position that you could, bundle Marcus Smart and the number 9 pick to try to go get you a big. You think that is a distinct or some sort of possibility? I don't have any sense
the Grizzlies are interested in trading Marcus Smart. I think that they traded for him for what he could do to a large degree in playoff basketball, and they haven't had a chance to see that yet. I think when opportunities arise, sometimes you do what you have to do. And in terms of adding value, in terms of salary match, Like, it's not out of the question to me that a scenario might arise that would include a player like that. But I don't see that as something the Grizzlies are sort of angling to do. To me, it's funny in this draft. I mean, Mike talks about, you usually if you get the number 9 pick, you can say, well, there's 4 or 5 guys that's just not going to be there. That's not the case in this draft. I'm not sure if it's even 2. I'm not sure if it's even Ricochet. What I've heard talking to people is that Alex Sarr is the only person in this draft you can say definitively is just not going to be there at 9.
Right.
Other guys who probably won't. Ricochet, Klingon, what have you. Yeah. But if you look at the opposite direction, it's funny to me when I hear people say, well, you can't take that guy at 9. I like him, but you can't take him at 9. In this draft? You take anybody you want, you know?
Yeah, absolutely.
Exactly,
absolutely.
Why not? And if you look at it, as far as the number 9 pick over the years, I think we got a graphic to show what's happened over the years with the number 9 pick. There's been some pretty good players that have surfaced at number 9. Of course, Dirk Nowitzki, who won a championship with the Dallas Mavericks, their only championship. And then, of course, T-Mac, Tracy McGrady, Amari Stoudemire, who was originally supposed to sign with Calipari in Memphis back when that whole thing was going on and the Tigers were on top of the college basketball world, but decided to go pro and then went with Phoenix and then had a tremendous career with the Suns. Iguodala, an all-star, and now on the most hated list from some Memphis fans for what he said. And then the Matrix, Sean Marion from just up the road in Cookeville, Tennessee, had a great career in Phoenix as well. There's been a lot of great guys, but who knows if there is a great guy in this draft.
Yeah. I mean, and that's the thing. I'm okay with the mystery, right? I'm okay with
mystery man.
Figuring out.
Like going to high school and getting a mystery meat in the lunch line.
I'm not. I don't want to explore that, right? Okay. But the thing is, when you look at this draft board and the potential guys that are in the projected in the lottery, we don't know, and even the executives that are in Chicago right now, they just don't know, right? Because there's so many, and every year there's you don't know, but there are some cases where. I was talking to one of the guys that were up there, and Ron Holland is my guy. And Ron Holland was like, I get offended when people dismiss this draft class. Like we hadn't even had meetings with with teams yet.
Exactly.
And everyone's saying that this draft is going to be one of the worst there is. How do we know? Like, how does anyone know? And if you get in the right situation, check back with us in 3, 4, 5 years, and we'll see how this draft class does. And that's what's fair. But we're in such a instant gratification. These guys have to hit your lineup and be impactful right now. I can't necessarily see that with most of this class, but at the end of the day, I'm not going to say this is a weak class.
It's interesting you mentioned, real quick quiz, you mentioned Ron Holland because he is on somebody's mock for the Grizzlies to pick. John Hollinger had him as the number 1 overall, I believe, in his assessment.
He's sticking by that, too. I saw Hollinger, man, and he's like, this still is my guy.
That's
I'm
the
like,
thing about this draft. There's no Wemby in this draft. Like, I mean, why couldn't Ron Holland be the best player in the draft? There's probably 20 guys who could be the best player in this draft. And so,
do you like Ron Holland enough for the Grizzlies to take him?
Oh, I'm still sort of investigating some of this stuff. At 9, that's the thing about 9. I mean, the list of players that we showed, all stars, that's not the measure of success for the 9th pick in this draft to me, finding a star. It's finding a good player.
Yeah.
It's finding a contributor, someone who can be in the rotation of a playoff level team. And so, I'm still fine-tuning my draft board. I know everyone's waiting for my personal draft board. I'm still fine-tuning that. So I'm not ready to commit to Ron Holland or anyone else in particular at this point, but Ron Holland at 9? Sure, why not?
Well, as Michael, the great Michael Wallace said, this will be a trade-heavy draft, I believe. There's going to be so many deals talked about after number 1 goes. Alexander Sarr possibly. Here's the draft order. The Hawks, of course, they got the number 1 pick. They've been a fair to middling franchise. I can't say much about them getting that in this draft. Houston is the only one I'm kind of mad at because they were pretty good last year. They just missed out on the lottery, and they jumped Memphis basically twice. The Spurs, well, they were really bad. The Pistons, I kind of feel sorry for because they had the worst record, and they were just terrible. And you want to do that to try to get a really good pick, but who knows in this draft? And it goes on down through the Hornets, Blazers, Spurs, Grizz at number 9, and then the Jazz, and then down through 14. You see the Blazers were the last team in the lottery. So everybody's going to be, I would say out of those 14, there may be 6 whose hats are going to be moved around once the commissioner announces their name.
And I agree. And the thing about that list right there, that draft board, is that this is proof positive that the new lottery format is working, right? Because you had 3 teams that were either 2 of them were in the play-in and another one was flirting to get to the play-in, and they jumped to the top of the field, top 6 picks, right? just because you're awful all season long, you're not supposed. Like, I don't want to reward you for that.
Right.
Like,
because you can do that on purpose if you want
to. Toronto came to mind.
Right.
And you know, obviously they say everything that happens in the sequester room is off the record and all of those kind of things.
Give us the insight. Give us the scoop.
I kind of sensed some people, you know, like this when Toronto had to give up their pick. They did all of that at the end of the season to just get really awful. And sometimes you mess around with the integrity of the game. You know, Detroit was just bad.
Yeah.
And they didn't deserve to get rewarded. You know, I felt bad for, in a sense, with Charlotte because they just had a lot of bad luck with injuries. They were sort of like the Grizzlies.
Yeah, kind
of. And they needed, you know, they made changes in the front office, made changes in the coaching staff, and they're just trying to get themselves right, and they failed. So, you know, again, like, you know, kudos to you know, a team like Atlanta that really tried. They didn't have the chemistry to make a run, but they were trying to make the playoffs, and then they get the number 1 pick, and we'll see what happens now because they're going to be a trade-heavy team as well, too, going into this season.
So we'll see how that works out. There may be a couple of guys on the Hawks team that the Grizzlies might like. But as far as you were up there during not only the draft, the lottery, but also you got to see some of the combine too. And there's a lot of guys up there working out and running around. I think you shot a little bit of video, didn't you?
Yeah. I mean, it'll show. I'm not a professional when it comes to that kind of thing.
I think I got a sneak peek of it. You did pretty good.
Just being able to see these guys go through their measurements. This was one thing at the combine. That first group was Alexander Sarr, Klingon, Zach Edey. You know, they were all in that first group to hit the floor. So they did their drills, and you're going to see them guys. You know, that's Zach Edey right there doing his vertical jump.
The monster
there.
from Purdue.
Yeah, Sarr, his length and his athleticism is off the charts. I think Zach showed some mobility here coming up in the second.
I think his numbers were better than Klingon's on some of those agility
some of those
drills.
things, yeah.
That kind of amazed me.
Yeah, so it was good to kind of see these guys because in previous years, the top picks wouldn't even do this.
No.
You couldn't see them do the measurements and those kind of things. And so, again, they had some shooting drills, and you saw some things that made you say, oh, okay, I can see these guys in action right now. So
Chris Harrington,
cool.
would you be okay with a Zach Edey pick at number 9 for Memphis?
I might. I certainly don't think, if you like Zach Edey, I don't think it's preposterous to pick him at 9. I've heard people say, I like Zach Edey, but you can't pick him at 9. And again, go back to what I said earlier,
really.
I don't know why not if you like him in this draft. I'm not sure where I am with Edey, but I take him seriously. And I think some people have been too dismissive of him. There's really not a comp for him. People have thrown out, Boban or, Taco Fall or whatever.
Well, that's not
the level of production he's had, the level of coordination and touch he has at that size, there just aren't guys like that. That doesn't mean he's going to be good in the NBA, but there are not guys like this. Yao Ming was some kind of that size. I compared him a little bit. I compared him. Yao was great. I don't know if he's going to be that. I compared him a little bit to Jonas Valanciunas, who the Grizzlies had.
That's who he compared himself to.
Yeah,
he compared himself
in terms of
like the 2 players he mentioned. Funny was Steven Adams, Jonas Valanciunas.
Wow. Yeah, and
those are the 2 players. Zach Edey said, those are the blueprints for what I do and what I can bring.
The level of production he's had, the level of touch he's had at that size, there just aren't comps for it, and at the high level of college competition.
Yeah.
And so I take him very seriously as a prospect. Is he the guy I would want if I'm the Grizzlies? I'm not sure about that, but I take him very seriously as a prospect.
Well, the Grizzlies could call his name, and the next thing you know, he could be wearing another hat 5 minutes later. Yeah. So it's something to think about. But somebody who wore a Grizzlies hat and jersey and the number 9 was up there as well. Number 9, Tony Allen, who's going to have his jersey retired here at FedEx Forum this coming season, which we're all glad to see as part of the Core 4. You had a chance to talk to him up there, didn't you, Michael?
Yeah, I did, man. It's the 20th anniversary of Tony Allen's path through the Combine to the NBA draft. 20 years ago, he was at the Combine in a different location. It was Moody Bible College at that time. And I had a chance to catch up with Tony Allen and kind of reflect on his time then and what he sees from these athletes going through the Combine right now. Grind City Media right here in Chicago at the NBA Draft Combine at Wintrust Arena. I'm Michael Wallace, joined by Grizz legend Tony Allen. No one knows more about what this kind of week means as prospects try to increase their resumes for NBA draft potential. Tony, when you look back at a week like this, now obviously it's the 20th anniversary of your NBA draft moment in 2004, going number 25 overall to the Boston Celtics. What was this week like for you back in 2004 when you had a chance to get on the floor and compete with some of the other top prospects?
Oh, it was a great opportunity that was going to help me provide for my family. I thought this time was make or break. I had put in a lot of work in college. I thought this right here was going to get me over the hump. Looking at the mock draft, I always thought I was going to be second round, maybe late, probably late first round, early second, but I thought this, particularly the combine itself, helped me get in the first round.
What are some of the things that are going through these prospects' minds? I mean, all of the top prospects are here. This year, the new CBA rule calls for all players who are draft eligible to go through testing, measurements, some scrimmage activities. How important is that, and what do you remember going through your mind at this point?
Oh, just seek and destroy. I'm trying to get ahead. For sure, because everybody's looking at that mock draft, whether they talk about it or not, and they trying to move up. And then you see guys that you know you better than, and you just want to get out here and impress the GMs. Because my whole mindset when I was playing was like, I don't need all 30 teams to like me. I just need that one. And if I can impress just that one team, and hey, my dream has come true, you know. So this is the time to put your game on right now.
When you go back to 2004 and some of the names at the top of the draft, obviously that was the Dwight Howard and Emeka Okafor. But then you go through the list of other guys that you were in that range with. When you finally had your name called, what did it mean for you and your family to get to this point in the NBA draft?
It meant a lot. Obviously you have a lot of butterflies leading up to that point. You don't know what's going to happen. Are you going to get drafted? You may not get drafted. What are you going to do if you don't get drafted? Things of that nature. And you're also looking for guys in that top range. Like at the time, it was Ben Gordon, J.R. Smith, Iguodala. You're looking for those workouts to try to impress the GMs. And if you don't get those opportunities, it kind of be weary leading up to the draft day. So, but it's definitely one of those times where you just got to soak in the moment when it happened. But for me, it was a dream come true.
Now, we know about the measurements, we know about the scrimmages, but when you get a chance to sit down in the interview sessions with some of the teams, what are some of the things you remember about how you had to present yourself in front of executives?
Believe it or not, man, I really didn't pay attention to all that, man. I'm talking about the drills. I just wanted to get out there and scrimmage and show them I can actually play basketball. But most importantly, I did show them that I had good character, I had a great sense of humor, and showed them I just love to play the game of basketball. I didn't really think, now that I look back, that they actually pay attention to all this stuff.
And now, obviously, 20 years later, you're back home in Chicago. What does that feel like? 20 years ago, you were in the draft class, you got drafted. Now you're back in Chicago seeing this play out behind us all over again.
Well, looking at this arena at Wintrust, it looks pretty impressive, bright lights. When I played, it was at like one of those little small, what is it called, Moody Bible? Yeah, Moody Bible, man. It was like one of a sweatbox, man. I was talking about, I was in there ready to just go, man. But this looks exciting, and 20 years is making me feel old, but old and wise, I could say. And I'm definitely excited to be here.
There you go. 20 years veteran of the NBA draft, NBA champion with the Boston Celtics, Mr. Grit and Grind himself with the Memphis Grizzlies. The Grizzlies will go into next month's NBA draft with the number 9 overall pick. They have a couple of second-round picks as well, too. The work continues this week in Chicago at the NBA Combine.
Really something to see, Michael. You got a chance to talk to the OG himself, Tony Allen, TA, and it's great. 20 years. Wow, we're all getting old. But, let's talk about some young folk right now. The question of the week for the Grizzlies right now, we've been going through positions each week on Grizz Beat leading up to the draft. Now the draft is over. We're talking about small forward spot right now. Let's go through the small forwards on the Grizzlies. What are the Grizzlies' biggest needs at the small forward spot this offseason? As Chris Harrington takes a look at the question, we will start with the great Chris Harrington.
Well, I think, the team is built around John Morant, Desmond Bane, and Jaren Jackson. So there's only so much ball handling and so many shots to go around. So I think that small forward position is naturally almost sort of a 3-and-D. Can you impact the team without a lot of usage, without having the ball a lot? So I think defense is paramount. Being able to knock down open shots is paramount. But I think a sneaky important thing, and this is where I think Vince Williams really shines, is rebounding. Getting plus rebounding out of that small forward position, someone who can punch above their weight on the boards. Vince Williams is probably built more like a scoring guard. He rebounds like a power forward. And I think that is really important on this team. I think that's a sneaky, valuable thing that he does, especially on the defensive boards.
Michael Wallace?
Yeah, when you start the list, Vince Williams is at the top, not because we're saying that he's the number 1 small forward on the roster right now. We don't know. That still has to be worked out. But because he ended the season as the number 1 small forward on the board after a lot of different injuries. Vince Williams is a guy that I've seen work his way from being a late second-round pick 2 years ago into being a certified answer.
He was in the 40s.
Late second-round pick, being a certified answer. He was the last draft play. They drafted 4 guys.
He was the very last
Kenny
one.
Lofton. So they had 5 rookies that year. And Vince came into camp as the 5th out of all of those guys because they really felt a little bit stronger about Lofton in terms of what they invested in him. But, when you start with Vince and then you work your way through that list, there are some questions that are still there. What is Zaire Williams, going to do? He's had time. Now he's had guys come behind him that kind of moved in front of him. He's had some injuries and some of those things. What do you think about Zaire's prospects?
Well, the thing about Z is the fact that, he has had some opportunities. He has not taken advantage of some opportunities, but then he's gotten some other opportunities, and I could see what they were thinking about, especially when Ja's been healthy and been on the floor with him. He's a good rim runner. Right. He can play defense on occasion. And if he can hit that shot with any kind of consistency, I think his best game is the mid-range because he's at almost 7 feet. He can jump over people, almost 6'10", rather. He can jump over people and get his shot off whenever he wants to if he gets around, that dotted line area, elbow area. And I think that should be his shot because he's shown he can hit that consistently.
As long as he is, I almost wonder if he's more of a guard, if he's more of a scale down than scale up, because I think he's better defensively on the ball and get smaller guards than trying to muscle up with bigger forwards. I think one of his best moments last season was playing some defense on Damian Lillard at the end of that game that was awesome. Win over Milwaukee.
Yes. That's what you wanted to see out of him.
But regardless of any of that, he's got to stay healthy and get some consistency going. And I do think, to your point, Jarvis, I think he is helped by the presence of Ja because he offers that vertical spacing, that lob threat that Ja can help take advantage of and help get him easy shots. But that's a valuable thing for the Grizzlies, but it's sort of a niche thing. It's sort of a secondary thing. It's not like the core of staying healthy, knocking down your shots, playing good defense. And he's got to start with that foundation.
Now, somebody who go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, and when you look at, Zaire, he's in there's a surplus of sort of projects at that same position, right? And the most enticing and exciting project is G.G. Jackson,
of course,
right? So it's almost like Zaire is caught between. He's not as great of a defender as Vince Williams, but he's good enough. And he's not as explosive of an offensive player, especially with the shot, as G.G. Jackson. He's kind of in the middle. So does that make him expendable? What we do know is that this young man right here gave a lot of people a reason to feel excited about moving forward.
Oh, that's why the crowds kept coming.
He essentially was your first-round pick now. So when you talk about wings that they can bring in potentially at number 9, is anyone going to come in and be better than what G.G. Jackson is right now? I don't know. And that's going to be a big-time question. Can he continue to develop into the summer league and going into next season as well?
Well, you see on the video right there, he's got length as well as height, 6'9", and what is his length, 7'1", something like that?
His wingspan?
His wingspan.
Oh, yeah.
And so he's got he's got the athleticism to do whatever he wants to do. And that's the main thing when you got guys that they can make it look easy out there on the court because they just have that innate natural ability to get wherever they want to get. We've seen him take the ball from outside, go all the way to the rim, and finish with authority, the ability to knock down the three, and then also the ability to hit a pull-up jumper as well as play defense in the paint against some big people.
Yeah, I think to some degree it's sort of role on the team. I don't think starting is necessarily more important than coming off the bench. No. It seems that way. I think at some level, the way he plays, to me, is more conducive on this team at the moment to coming off the bench and having score and punch off the bench. Yeah. I think the way that Vince Williams Jr. plays is more complementary to those 3 stars because of the rebounding and the off-ball and the defense. Yes. Of course, they might end up starting Marcus Smart, and all these guys could come off the bench.
Right, yeah. So, perfect point there. Vince is automatically a perfect shoe-in for that 5th starter or whatever you want to call it. Yeah. Gigi on a championship team, you want him to be in that secondary role.
He may grow into that starting role. I just think short term, it seems to me like you bring him along off the bench.
Well, what you need right now, because you have his scoring between Desmond and Jaren and Ja. Obviously, you don't need. He's not going to be a guy you're running offense for.
No,
right? He's a relief option, but you're going to need that punch coming off the bench.
You can see him and Brandon Clark playing together, with Brandon being the power and Gigi being the small forward. But they're interchanged. They can both run around, except Gigi's got more of a perimeter game. And then the final name on that list was Jake LaRavia, who has been hurt most of his career, but when he was finally healthy there at the end, showed, yeah, this guy's got some promise.
The point I kept making about Jake LaRavia in the middle of last season wasn't, I never said, just wait, he's going to be good. I had no idea. Yeah. I still don't. But I kept making the point that he hasn't really played. Zaire Williams and David Roddy had played so many more NBA minutes at that point than Jake LaRavia had. And to me, he was still a mystery box. He just had not played. And he looked really good late in the season. Now, that's late in a lost season. You're not playing with the other guys. You don't know how seriously to take that. But it's better to see him play well than not play well down the stretch.
To me, what Jake accomplished, and he told me this coming down the last 20 games, I need to finish on my feet.
Yeah.
Like, people need to finally see that I'm Jake LaRavia and what I can bring. And if nothing else, he at least played his way into being a non-negative entity
no,
on
that's
the
right.
roster, right? You know what I'm saying? And so at least now you can say, okay, this might be excess at his position. I don't see a clear path to, minutes, but he's got something here that we can continue to look at if we want to.
I look at Jake LaRavia as an asset. It's like, okay, he may not be on this team, but you may be able to package him with something else to get somebody back. And, I don't know that his, because he was heavily relied upon at the end of the year. He won't be. He'll be a niche player, kind of like Gigi. He's going to be he's going to fit in this role. He's going to have a more of a defined role, and it won't be as big as it was this year when everybody was hurt. Now, but you've seen at least this dude can play, and other teams got to see, well, at least he can play. Maybe we can get something out of him, and we'll offer somebody up.
To Mike's point, the Grizzlies have found themselves in training camp in multiple seasons with too many players.
Yeah.
You end up cutting a guy for a roster spot. He's too good for that. He is at least past that level. You have to take him seriously as a real player, whatever the role is going to end up being.
And we'll see what roles are going on in the NBA playoffs coming up in our next segment on Grizz Beat, that and more when we come back. Just a quick break.
Nate Bargatze, the Be Funny Tour.
I mean, Chuck E. Cheese is rough. I don't know if you've been there in a while. They look like they're trying to go to business and they can't.
All new material.
They filed for bankruptcy and they're still open. They called Blockbuster and they're like, how do you get out? We want out.
Nate Bargatze, Friday, May 31st, FedEx Forum. Tickets available at FedEx Forum box office or Ticketmaster.com. Produced by Outback Presents. Nate Bargatze, the Be Funny Tour.
You think Gigi's a lot better than you were at the same age?
Yeah, the dude did a
step
back double cross and went by somebody and dunked it. He's pulling it from 4-point line. Like, he's right though. I mean, there was a time in camp when he was like, less of what you're seeing, and that's just because his legs were gone because we're doing all this running, and then we got to play. Like, he doesn't know, like, the game isn't going to be like this.
The Chris Vernon Show, presented by Caesars Sportsbook, live weekdays at noon on YouTube at Grind City Media and the official Grind City Media app.
Now for a limited time, the new $1.99 crispy tender wraps are here at Sonic. Who could deny a crispy chicken tender with bold flavors like hickory barbecue and cheesy Baja? And we can't forget the crisp lettuce and melty cheese to make the perfect bite. Wrap yourself up with some TLC, tender, love, and chicken for only $1.99. Sonic $1.99 crispy tender wraps. Tax not included, limited time only at participating Sonic drive-ins.
This is an actual good shoe.
Yeah, it looks like
this
a good
is a
shoe.
real good shoe.
What you think about him, KJ? She likes Cheetos.
Like Cheetos?
Yeah,
You like
nay.
Cheetos?
You like Cheetos?
For kids, yeah, or nay.
That's what I mean. For kids,
kids, yeah.
1,000%.
Yeah.
And honestly, if I was still playing basketball, I played in brightly colored shoes. I wore pink shoes a lot of the time, or purple shoes. Like, I like that. The Sneak Fest Show, live Tuesdays at 2 p.m. on YouTube at Grind City Media and the official Grind City Media app.
Hey everybody, 191 Collabs presented by Hennessy is coming back for the 24-25 season of Grizzlies basketball. And the Grizzlies are looking for the next lineup of Memphis creators to design limited edition Grizz garments in their signature style. For help taking your vision from the drawing board to the team store, you can apply by Monday, June 10th. Here's what you got to do. You got to hit up 191collabs.com. That's 191collabs.com.
Now we spread out a little bit further and take a bigger look at the NBA as a whole in this segment, and it starts with what's going on in the playoffs. The playoffs are now almost wrapping up. The second round of the conference semifinals are right there. And as we look at the board, the Mavs and the Thunder, Mavs are up 3-2. You see the Boston Celtics have already vanquished the Cleveland Cavaliers and they're moved on. And now the Pacers and the Knicks, 3-2 right there as well, going into these games coming up right here. And then the Nuggets and the Timberwolves are at 3-2. I want to start with Boston and Cleveland, guys, because that's the series that got wrapped up. Boston is going to the conference finals for the third straight year. They've been there, I think, 7 times in the last 9 years or somewhere along those lines. But the storyline is everything all the chaos that's coming out of Cleveland. There are reports that J.B. Bickerstaff, former Grizzlies coach, could be on the hot seat, may be in trouble. Their star players from Donovan Mitchell to Jarrett Allen to Garland, all of these guys are unhappy with each other. What do you make of the mess in Cleveland, and is this thing fixable? Is it a lot of smoke and a little fire, or is there definitely fire kindling right there? We'll start with you, Jarvis.
I would hope that it's not a mess because I like Cleveland. I like what the team that they put together, but it seems like wherever Donovan Mitchell goes, as much as I like him as a player, there seems to be some problem. He wasn't really happy in Utah. They had something working in Utah, and then all of a sudden that blows up and he's gone. Now it looks like he's not happy in Cleveland, even though they have done a good job of getting young. They got young talent that is around him that looks really, really good. I mean, heck, they took the Celtics. They made the Celtics work for that win. Even though that last game, the score was big, it was a much closer game than what that score was. I don't know if they're having problems. And what's the big man? One of the big men that you mentioned? Jared Allen.
Yeah,
he might be in a Memphis uniform. If the Grizzlies work out a trade, who knows?
Jarvis says all roads lead to Memphis.
All roads
lead to Memphis. There's
many scenarios.
Ripping right here, baby. That's correct. They do, and maybe he likes barbecue. Who knows? Chris Harrington can help him with that.
It feels like it shouldn't be as messy as it is.
No,
because
JB's a good dude.
That team is good.
Yeah,
and that team is still young. You got 4 really good, if not all-star, borderline potential all-star level players, all in their 20s, all under contract. You just advance in the playoffs. I think after one of the games, JB was asked, was this season a success? And his response was, this season was an improvement. I thought that was a good answer. This is not where we want to be, but let's not lose track of what we did accomplish, right? We were a higher seed than last year. We advanced in the playoffs. That team is good and can continue to be good and could be better. Now, if they feel like it's not tenable because among those 4 good young players, you have a lot of duplication. You got 2 small guards, 2 bigs. To me, they have the capability to break that up, choose one of each category, but break it up in a way that doesn't reroute them. It's not a blow it up and rebuild. It's just you can build a different kind of good team around that core you have. And so if it's that path, I think that's fine for them. But to me, they have to move forward in a way that keeps a good team being good, even if it takes a slightly different shape.
Now, the question is, are they looking for a scapegoat? Because the scapegoat is always easiest to make the coach the scapegoat.
It's a lot easier to fire the coach than do anything else.
It's a lot easier to fire the coach, but I agree with you. I like their tools. I like their assets. They can make a shift and still be right back in the mix in the East. When you look at the West, though, Minnesota, man, everybody was on Minnesota like, hey 2 games in, Minnesota, they look like world beaters.
Oklahoma City going to be in the finals.
Denver's won 3 straight now. Is this series basically over now, Chris?
Well, this is as we talked today, they're playing tonight, Game 6 in Minnesota. That is a high wattage, high stakes basketball game. Going back to Minnesota with Denver with a chance to close them out after Minnesota went up 2-0 in Denver. That's a crazy switch in that series. I mean, I like Denver in this series now, but I don't take it for granted. The Minnesota thing is interesting because that team is set up. They could run it all back next season and be really good next season. But, Mike Conley, who we all love, is going to be another year older.
Is this going to be a 17th year?
The salary, the financial situation is getting very tight. The ownership situation. You got Anthony Edwards, and whatever you're doing it with him.
Right.
But there's a lot of instability with that franchise, too, potentially, beyond this season.
Mike Conley, it's the bad time to have a calf strain at that stage of your career. You already have your coach essentially sideline coaching from the
because you ran into him.
And you have your conductor not out there. That tells you how important he is to that team.
Oh, definitely.
Jarvis, I'm going to switch with you and hit on the Knicks.
Well, I'm wearing my Mike Conley shirt today.
Hit on the Knicks Pacers series.
Okay.
How do you figure that one out? Because that one is literally all over the place.
All roads lead to Memphis. Precious Achua on the boards, getting it done for the Knickerbockers. The New York Knicks were my first favorite team in the NBA when I started watching basketball in 1972. And understanding what was going on, and then you see Willis Reed come out of the tunnel at Madison Square Garden. The place goes crazy. Everybody knows that story. Even you're not too young. Even Chris is not too young to not know that story.
Well, I wasn't there. I wasn't around, but I do know. I know my history.
I was a Knicks fan, and I think it's good for the NBA when a New York team, when the Knicks are good. I just think it is.
It's been a great scene,
and and it's really something because they got like guys hurt, but they're still playing well, and they kind of remind me of the Grizzlies, and the whole grit grind thing, because that's the way they play.
I think it's just going to eventually be a coronation for the Boston Celtics
Yeah.
because either of those teams that come out of this one, between the Knicks and the Pacers, I don't think they're on the level anywhere near being competitive against Boston, but we'll see.
It feels like Boston's not going to be tested until they get to the NBA Finals.
Yes.
I think if the Knicks were full strength, maybe they could test Boston. But it seems like if they get out of the series, they're going to be such a walking wounded kind of team. They're going to, we'll see, but it feels like they're going to run out of gas when they go up against the Celtics team.
And last but not least, I mean, should we be fearing Dallas? You talk about all roads lead back to Memphis.
Right.
Dallas is the one team out of all of these teams that even a healthy Grizzlies have struggled against because Dallas is so good. They were so good defensively before they made these trades.
Yeah.
And now you have Kyrie and Luka figuring out how to play together. And then you got Lively and Gafford and Derrick Jones Jr. And I mean, like, that team is a scary team because they can beat you in a number of different ways.
Here's the thing about that, though. Some teams are jinx teams for other teams, and I think the Grizzlies are kind of a jinx team because they have won in Dallas when Dallas was at full strength and the Grizzlies had nothing. So I'm not going to just give, Dallas scares the heck out of me. There's no way. I'm more worried about Minnesota because they're young and they've got a lot of guys who can really just light it up. They're young and they're long. Well, Dallas has gotten a lot longer in the trades that they've made.
Yes,
and that length, man, you cannot. That's really something, especially in the way that the league is played right now.
Yes. Let's jump back to the NBA Combine for a second. I was there in Chicago to start this week. A lot of the talk after the first few picks in the lottery projected guys, was all about Bronny James. Bronny James was there. He had a great day when it came to the measurements and shooting drills. I think he was 19 of 25 on the three-point shooting drill line.
I think that's who Chris thinks the Grizz could take at 9.
And then he struggled. Mightily
99.
in the 2 scrimmage showings. I'll defend him on the scrimmages because it's just really hard to look good when you're playing in these scrimmages right there. You talk about his measurements, 6'1.5" without shoes. His weight is stocky. He's a strong guy. Wingspan is what it is, almost 6'7", over 6'7". He said that he's more like a Derek White / a Marcus Smart. That's who his comp he sees himself as, trying to get into the league and make it that way. Is this going to be a situation where a team is going to be forced to draft Bronny James? Well, I mean, I don't think he's going to be a first-round pick. But do you foresee a team drafting him in the second round, Jarvis?
The only team that would be forced to do that if LeBron is still there would be the Lakers. Yep. I don't think anybody else would be forced to do anything with Bronny. He'll make it on his own. And it's not his fault that his dad is LeBron James. He's Bronny James. And the worst thing that happened to him was the heart condition that he had. We didn't really get a chance to see what he really was in his 1 year in college at USC because of that. He's been given the full, got his papers, his health is fine, you're ready to play, so he's going to make it on his own. But I don't think the only team pressured into taking him would be the Lakers if they wanted to do that and if LeBron is still there.
Is he a legitimate prospect, Chris?
I don't think he's a legitimate prospect yet. He could be. I think if his name was not, if he was not LeBron James Jr., he'd be going back to college probably, and we'd say we'd look up after like his junior year and we'd see if he had become a prospect. There are a lot of basketball players who are built like him and who play like him. A lot of them. 7-footers are harder to come by. 6'1" guys, not hard to come by.
No.
There are a lot of those guys. Most of them don't make it, but some of them do. And like Derek White, Marcus Smart, that's a high-level comp. You could point to other guys. Gary Harris, Javon Carter, Patrick Beverly. Smaller guards who are defensive-oriented, can knock down shots, but aren't really run the team pure point guards. There's a place for those guys. There's a lot of them all around the league. He could be one of those guys. But if his name was not Bronny James, we wouldn't be talking about him yet. This may be one of those guys.
I agree wholeheartedly. I've known Bronny since he was 4. Right, I've seen him. I've been around him when LeBron got to Miami. I had some time around him. Even before then, when Bron first got to the NBA Finals with Cleveland in 2007 against the Spurs, and Bronny was just born. Right around that time. And I will say this. He would not even be invited to the NBA Combine if he were Bronny James.
Right.
Just because, I mean, there's a lot of guys that are in his realm that just wouldn't make it there. There are only 80 positions to get there. I do think that they would not have put him in this position. And when I'm saying they, I mean Clutch, his representatives, and his dad and the league would not have put him there if there wasn't some kind of wink, wink, nod, nod arrangement. They're not going to let this guy go through all of this and not get drafted on draft. somebody is going to draft him, whether it's late in the second round or whatever, because they don't want to see that fail. Because that becomes, why was he invited here?
They're pushing an agenda.
He does just enough to have good measurements.
Right.
He's going to test well, but that's just not. He's going to have to make his money in these next 3 weeks or 2 weeks in the individual team workouts. If he could do that, he might have a shot.
I say you got a guy like, say that the Tigers' David Jones is up there, and he was an honorable mention All-American. He had a great season at Memphis.
Couldn't do anything
it was a struggle for him to get to just to even get an invite to the combine. And so you got a guy like that who's proven it on the college level. He can score. He's not the biggest guy, 6'3.5" without shoes on. They listed him at 6'6", the little fudge, the college fudge that they do.
Yeah.
But, you got a proven guy, and Bronny, barely played at USC and then never really talked to anybody because he said that's what his agents told him. He's got agents. Everybody got agents now.
Yes.
So
it's a new era.
I'm for the kid. I want him to do well. I think he was a 4-star coming out of high school, so it's not like he was not good. He's a good player. Just how good we'll see, and is he good enough for somebody to spend draft capital? I don't know.
Well, that was the major debate in Chicago, is how legitimate are his NBA prospects. One of the other greatest debates going on was NFL versus NBA players.
Oh yeah,
right?
Here we go.
Listen, this thing has gotten it's like fingernails on the chalkboard. I had to bring it into Grizz Beat so we can discuss it. But first, I want you to hear what these clowns and what these knuckleheads, these talking heads have said about the debate. NFL players switching over to NBA and vice versa.
All the football players around the world, they took offense to this. Oh, basketball players are soft. They're not mentally strong and all this. They're not mentally tough or whatever the case may be. Well, that's a damn lie. They have certain ones that are painted like that, but I know a lot of professional basketball players that have the mentality. But the one thing that bothers me is that, like, even my brother Ryan Clark, he never gave us a list of football players that could actually come to the NBA and play. Give me a few of those. It's not one. It's not one. Not right now. I'm talking. Charlie Ward won the Heisman Trophy and played in the NBA. It was no. Listen. The topic was current players right now, not past. Because I could go to Allen Iverson and everybody else. Go ahead.
So I want to make sure I'm hearing you and Austin Rivers correct. So you could take 30 players currently right now and go play in the NFL. I ain't talking about that played before. I ain't saying we gonna give them a year, 2 years to train. You can put their ass out there on the field right now.
Shannon, I never said 30, but Molly asked me put some in there. Yes, I just named you 5.
Your damn mind.
Can you name me 5?
You done lost your damn mind, Jarvis.
Hey, look. Okay.
Hey, listen, hold on. Let me set you up for it.
He done took the headphones off. Now look at we get ready.
You played
get that barbecue sauce ready, Chris.
High-level college football, right? And so you know at least a little bit about what athleticism and toughness it takes to be a football player. I'm siding with the NFL guys on this one. But I do think it's such a great, interesting debate that it almost shouldn't be one. Can you find 5 NBA? Which one will be the easier path? NBA players going to play in the NFL, or NFL players making a transition to the NBA? And we're talking about the elite of the elite, the most elite athletes from that standpoint.
Athletes are athletes, okay? This is me talking here. I was not the greatest athlete, but I played football in college at the University of Memphis. I was a defensive back. We had guys that played high school basketball, tried to come out and play football. Everybody looks great in shorts when you're running around out there in the summer. You put those pads on, brother, it's a whole different story. Now, could there be some guys in the NFL now that could play in the NBA? Yeah. Could there be some guys in the NBA now that could play in the NBA, in the NFL? Probably, but you don't know until you put that gear on. You put that gear on, man, it's a whole different thing. When you got live ammunition coming at you, and it's like, no, I got to eat, and I'm taking it out of your knee or your face or whatever it is. It's just different. Skill level, like he talked to me. He mentioned Allen Iverson. Allen Iverson was an all-state quarterback. I think he won state championship in Virginia when he was playing. That's just one option. Charlie Ward, he mentioned at Florida State. But my Tigers played against him when Bobby Bowden was coach. Great players. There are some players who could do both. LeBron James could do anything he wanted, I mean, if you put skates on him, maybe he could skate. Remember that Bo Jackson commercial, Bo knows? Yeah. Bo could do probably just about everything. There are guys who could do that, but I think it would be easier for some NFL guys, like mostly wide receivers. You got your 6'3", 6'4" guys that can go out there and run around. They're still slim enough to be able to run up and down the floor. A lot of them play basketball in the offseason as a way to kind of stay in shape. They can shoot. It's the touch issue. Can you shoot well enough to do it? Could they defend? Yes. Could they go off the bounce? Yes. Could they dunk? Oh, hell yeah. But, it's like the touch issue would be the thing, and because that's a lot more weightlifting that you do in the NFL. But the transition, I think, and Chris, you can jump in whatever you want.
Well, I mean, I didn't play college, either of these. I played intramurals at Division III. I mean,
okay. Well, hey, that's a definitive word right there.
Right. I guess I would say it depends on how you phrase the question. If you phrase it as which is easier, meaning you got to pick one or the other, I actually do think it's probably easier to go basketball to football than football to basketball, because I think there's so much more specialization in football, and I think raw strength and athleticism can probably get you a little bit further, whereas basketball is a free-flowing game and there's a certain level of skill. But I don't think it's easy for either way.
No.
I just think once you get to this level, it's not just about athleticism and strength. It is about skill, and it is about feel for the game and knowing how to play these games, and that's something you have to learn over time. So something like LeBron James, if you had just said play football and he had stuck to that, could he have been a great football player? Of course. Tight end, probably would have been awesome.
Matt Barnes
But
was
if you
a
had
great
taken him at
football
age
player.
28 and just thrown him in the NFL, would he have been good? No, I don't think.
I say this because here's the reason why I shift and I lean towards the NFL guys.
Now, you were a point guard at Grambling State University,
but even
the
still,
Fighting Tigers of Grambling.
And I'm built more like a football player now. Right?
So, well, that's
here's the
father
thing.
time right there.
I know for a fact, and I've been around these guys. I was around Charlie Ward, right, when he made the decision. He did it. But I was also around Randy Moss. There's no doubt in my mind that Randy Moss he could have played in the NBA if he truly wanted to. He's 6'4", shooting guard skills, hand-eye coordination. I think he could have made that transition. And we're talking about elite level athleticism. I do think basketball is not it's not a physical sport. The physicality.
Well, the way it is now, it's not like it used to be.
The demands of the physicality, knowing that, number one, and we're really only talking like wide receivers, skill set position kind of guys, right?
Some running backs, but most of the wide outs,
but they're
some
typically
defensive
shorter,
backs.
Maybe a quarterback.
Going
maybe a
football
tight end.
to basketball.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
So having some kind of length and hand-eye coordination. Here's what makes the difference to me. In football, basketball players, you can't touch them. They don't like the physicality. They have to operate in a certain amount of space, and they don't have to have their head on a swivel.
Right.
In football, you cross over, the whole mentality is changing.
Yes.
Just the fact you have to have a helmet on, you can't see. Your peripheral vision is compromised.
Right.
So you're almost like you're vulnerable because you're so obscured and you have 20 more pounds of pads on. So your athleticism is negated somehow on the football field because of the physical demands of what you just have to do to be on the football field. And look, I don't think either one is lining up to do the other. It'll be hard to do. However, if you had to go one way or another, I think I would side more with NFL players being a little bit more adept at being able to run and shoot in free space and use their elite athleticism to transition to basketball.
I'm going to say one quick thing here. Back when I was playing at Memphis, we had a basketball player. His name was Ken Dunnick. He was basically a small forward on the Tiger basketball team. The USFL just came into being, and he knew that he was not good enough to play basketball in the NFL and make any money, so he came out for football. And so let me try my hand at this. He got his ass worn out every day, but he stuck with it and ended up playing for the Philadelphia Stars, a team that won the first USFL championship as their starting tight end. Now, he is an exception to the rule because, it was killing being out there in the grass and the heat. Basketball, you were in air conditioning all the time pretty much, and that was just one thing that worked in that
The
direction.
reason I go the opposite way, Mike, is not because of athleticism toughness. It's because of mental processing. Basketball, if you're not used to doing it at that level, being able to just process everything around you, I think, is so difficult. Whereas I think football, you could isolate things a little bit more on the field. You run this route or do. With basketball, you're going both ways, playing both ends. Everything's flowing. To me, if you're not used to doing that at a high level, day in, day out, no matter how good of an athlete you are, to jump into an NBA context, I just don't know about that.
That's, I mean, that's why it's a debate. You know,
it's the eternal debate.
It's the eternal,
would they be better
question.
at defense or would they be better on offense? Like I could see Draymond Green playing outside linebacker maybe for somebody and then getting thrown out of the league for clotheslining someone after the whistle's blown.
That's a great point. That's a great point, man. There's so much more. We can continue this debate ad nauseum, but we don't. We
come across the middle on me, Michael, as a point guard. You come across the middle. And you too, Mr. Division III All-Star, Chris Harrington.
When we come back, it's our playoff playback. We can look back at one of the Grizzlies' classic playoff games from recent history as we look forward to the NBA playoffs moving forward, just right after the break here on Grizz Beat.
Grizzlies fans know it's the team that gives you the edge. Big River Steel does too. And much like the Grizzlies have recruited legendary talent, we want you to be part of our team. Are you ready to be part of something legendary? Then visit www.bigriversteel.com. That's www.bigriversteel.com.
Hey Grizzlies fans, after exciting hoops and a lucky night of gaming, where do you rest your head? Look no further than Southland Casino Hotel, proud sponsor of the Memphis Grizzlies. Our high-rise hotel is the epitome of luxury and comfort. Picture this, you've just finished an evening of gaming and dining, so you head on over to one of our 300 rooms to end the night. Choose from standard, suite, and presidential suite, plus we're pet-friendly and offer mobility scooters for rent. It's a seamless experience for everyone. And don't miss the Main Street Exchange, right in the heart of our casino lobby. Whether you're craving a snack or need a souvenir of your stay, we've got you covered. From polo shirts to shot glasses, take a piece of the Southland excitement home with you. So come stay and play at Southland Casino Hotel, where every moment is designed for your enjoyment. Book your hotel stay by calling 833-703-3350 or visit online at southlandcasinohotel.com/hotel.
Guests must be 21 years of age or older to check in at hotel. Must be 21 plus. Play responsibly. For help quitting, call 800-522-4700.
When it's all on the line, you turn to the strong, the stable, the unwavering, to those with a history of raising their performance to meet the moment. It's true in basketball. It's true in banking. Grizzlies Checking from Pinnacle. Play hard. Bank easy.
Open a Grizzlies checking account with at least $100 and a recurring direct deposit by August 31st, and you could receive a $200 direct deposit bonus into your account. Details at grizzliesbanking.com. Member FDIC.
Hey guys, you won't want to miss the Grizzlies Garage Sale benefiting St. Jude Children's Research Hospital. That's coming up Saturday, May 18th. That's this Saturday at FedEx Forum from 10 a.m. to 3 p.m. Fans can shop Grizzlies memorabilia, autographed items, sneakers, jerseys, basketballs, and more from previous seasons. Plus, score big in the Grizz Den with 40% off all remaining 191 Collabs inventory, City Edition product, and select on-court apparel. Free parking in the Grizzlies Gossett Motors parking garage will be available, and FedEx Forum does have a clear bag policy, so remember that. You can visit grizzlies.com for all the details on the big Grizzlies Garage Sale coming up Saturday, 10 to 3 at FedEx Forum. All right, let's get into the Grizz key dates this offseason. They're coming up. We've got the draft combines. It's still going on right now in Chicago. You've got we had the draft first round. The draft is coming up June 26th in New York, and of course June 22nd. That'll be the second round. Something new this year. We all have said we think we really like that to happen. Break it up that way, don't you, Chris? It gives everybody their due.
Yeah, I like the 2-day. I would do it slightly differently. To me, the full second round on day 2 is a little much. I would maybe cut it off at the lottery and then continue with the first round on day 2. But I'm in favor of the 2-day. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that just makes it fun, and everybody gets their due, and then you get to spend more attention on exactly who these people are. Are they still? Have you heard, Michael? Are they still doing it like lightning round, 2 minutes between picks on the second round?
I need to figure that out. I think they'll probably give a little more time.
I think they extended the time frame on the second round.
Yes.
Yeah,
but I agree. That's a great idea, Chris, to go lottery. 1 through 14, because you can make that its own show.
Right. Yeah, and then that day 2 could have a little bit more juice because you still got first round picks coming.
Absolutely, I agree.
All right, now one thing we've been doing here on the Grizz Beat program is we've been showing you some great playoff moments from the Grizzlies. As you know, the Grizz aren't in the playoffs this year. We all know why, because of injuries. But they were in the playoffs last year, and they played the LA Lakers, the one team that we did not want to play. That's the way. It's just kind of like the lottery. That's the way it worked out. But the Grizzlies had a great Game 5 right here at the Grindhouse against LeBron James and the Lakers. That Game 5, John Morant, Desmond Bane, and Jaren Jackson Jr. all went for double-doubles in that game. It was quite a scene at the Forum, Chris Harrington.
Yeah, the thing I remember most about that game is that you see Luke Kennard there. I don't remember exactly how many minutes or what the box score line was, but I remember him playing more in that game and the team playing really well when he was out there, and people got the sense that the spacing really opened things up for those other guys, and people got excited about that. And then Kennard got injured in the fourth quarter of that game, and it was a real mystery whether he was going to play Game 6.
Yeah. Perfect segue right there, because he made that shot right there, and then shortly after that went down, the shoulder injury hurt him. And you felt like you finally had some answers, and you had hope to bring that series, win it in LA, and bring it back for a decisive 7th game. It just wasn't meant to be. Anthony Davis and those guys were just too strong. As you look at some of the role players that stepped up, there was a D'Angelo Russell game in there. There was an Austin Reeves game in there.
Oh, Rui Hachimura
at the beginning of the series was a problem. And the Grizzlies just didn't have the physicality to match up without Steven Adams or Brandon Clark in that series. But that was the last one that they won. That was the last playoff victory that the Grizzlies have had, going back to Game 5 of 2023 against the Los Angeles Lakers.
Wow, one of the few wins that we saw in Memphis here in last season. Year of 2023? How many games the Grizz win at home this year? Do you remember this?
Not many.
Yeah,
it was a franchise low.
It was like 7. Something like
7,
that.
yeah. I don't know if we got the double figures.
It was a franchise low, whatever the number was.
27 wins overall.
We're trying to forget this past season.
Let's go ahead and flush that thing. It's a turd going down the hole there. It's on its way out. But Grizz Beat will be back coming up here. We'll have a whole lot more on everything that's going on in the Grizzlies offseason. We want to thank, again, Chris Harrington for joining us here. Chris Harrington is going to be headed up to the headwaters of the Mighty Muddy here before too long, but you're still going to be grizzing, right?
I will still be on doing Grizzlies all next season, back and forth a little bit. Yeah.
You're going to be doing Timberwolves too, though, huh? Are you going to get credentialed to do them as well? Come on, tell us. We need a Minnesota correspondent.
Could be. Yeah.
You'll be the link with Mike Conley, because he's got another year on his contract up there.
Yes.
Very good. And of course, as always, the guru of Grind City Media himself, the great Michael Wallace, as my grandson likes to call him. Michael, you'll be back, and we'll have a whole lot more to talk about. Michael, we appreciate it. You saw that combine. That has to be just a total, mind blower of talent when seeing all those guys out there and everyone trying to put their best foot forward.
Yeah, everyone was there. All the top prospects, all the agents, all the league executives, all the coaches, all in one space. You can get a lot done there, man. And it's I'm thankful and blessed to always have an opportunity to be, covering this league the way I do.
And we're thankful and blessed that you guys joined us right here on Grind City Media for Grizz Beat. We'll see you again as we talk about the upcoming draft. That's June 26th and 27th. We'll be back before then, so just watch Grind City Media for details. This is it, and we'll see you next time.
That's game. Thanks for running with us for another episode of Grizz Beat. Join us each Wednesday at Grind City Media for all the latest insight and analysis on the Grizzlies.